Hey guys, Barbarian here. So in this video, I really wanted to dive into and talk about the different classes that are in Diablo 4 and talk about what they do as far as if they're caster, melee, ranged, or their damage types. And then I want to talk about their ultimates, because ultimately this is the stuff we really want to know, and this might even help us decide what we want to do. At the end of every class, I'm going to rate them on their solo potential, their defensive stats, their group compatibility, their build variety, their PvP potential, and their difficulty overall. So let's just dive right into it. First up, let's talk about the Barbarian. So your Barbarian is going to be your melee class. It's going to be the class is going to be the tankiest. It's going to be up in everyone's face. Damage types that they have is physical and bleed. And they have the arsenal system is their unique mechanic. Now the arsenal system is where they're able to have 2 extra weapons, so they'll be able to equip 2 two-handed weapons and 2 one-handed weapons. Now this is unique to everyone else because everyone else can only have 10. The rogue can have 11, but we'll get to that. They are super mobile. They have leaps and charges. I would say this super mobility is not only a good thing to get in everyone's faces, but also to get away. Now the problem is if you use it to get in everyone's faces, you're not going to be able to use it to get away. They're very defensive. They are one of your tankiest classes. They have Fortify. Now how Fortify works is it's an added HP pool, and in that HP pool, that's going to be what is damaged from first, and everything that's damaged from that HP pool has reduced damage. Now as soon as that HP pool of Fortify is diminished entirely, then everything beyond that is no longer reduced damage. First ultimate is Call the Ancients. Call upon 3 Ancients to aid you in the battle for 6 seconds. Korlik, who is one of the Ancients, leaps at the enemies, dealing 80% damage, and swings his weapons in a frenzy, dealing 30% damage per hit. Talik spins in a whirlwind, rapidly attacking enemies for 50% damage. And Madoc upheaves the ground, dealing 150% damage. Next ultimate is Iron Maelstrom. Activate to attach a chain to your 2-handed bludgeoning weapon and slam the ground, dealing 63% damage and stunning them for 2 seconds. Reactivate a second time to attach the chain to your 2-handed slashing weapon and swipe it in front of you, dealing 21% damage and 126 bleed damage over 5 seconds. Reactivate a final time to attach the chain to your dual wield weapons and swing them around you, dealing 34% damage per hit. Your next ultimate is going to be Wrath of the Berserker. Gain Berserking and Unstoppable for 5 seconds. For the next 10 seconds, dealing direct damage with basic skills grants Berserking for 5 seconds. Now overall, to go with a rating, I would say their solo potential, they are 6 out of 10. They're able to probably be the tankiest class out there, so with that, you're probably able to solo most content out there with them alone. Their defensiveness, they have a lot of defensive abilities, but those defensive abilities also are in the same branch as the mobile abilities. So because of that, I gave the defensive a 6 out of 10. Their group compatibility is 10 out of 10 because they have war cries and shouts, and these will buff your allies tremendously. Not only that, but buffing you also. Build variety, I would say overall, I'm not going to think too much about this. I think the build variety is going to be a 4 out of 10. I don't really see a lot of deviation in certain things, but we will see when the full game comes out. PvP potential, I believe, because their tankiness and their mobility capabilities, I give them an 8 out of 10. I think they're going to be up in everyone's faces, and then if you try to get away, they're going to be able to have something to follow you with. Difficulty overall, I think they're a 4 out of 10. Like I said, they're very tanky and up in the face. I think this is going to be your great class to if you're starting out for the first time in a Diablo series or an action RPG. But overall, I would say Barbarian's a good place to start. 4 out of 10 for difficulty. Alright, now let's talk about the Necromancer. The Necromancer is going to be your hybrid class. It's going to be your summoner, melee, or caster. Their damage type is going to be shadow or physical. Their unique mechanic is going to be the Book of the Dead. Now with the Book of the Dead, you're going to be able to change the types of skeleton warriors or skeleton mages that you have out there, the types of golems you're going to have out there. Also, you're going to be able to sacrifice those types to buff yourself. Instead, the buffs will be probably to help you with the casting or the melee potential of your character.
Quick pause on the video real quick, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you. If you guys like this kind of videos, please like and subscribe. That is all I want to say. Let's dive back into it.
Now, the 3 ultimates that the Necromancer are going to have. The first one's going to be Army of the Dead. Call forth The Deep Buried Dead. Volatile undead emerge over the next 7 seconds that explode when around enemies, dealing 30% damage. The next one's going to be Blood Wave. Conjure a tidal wave of blood that deals 90% damage and knocks enemies back. Next one's going to be Bone Storm. A swirling storm of bones appear around you and your golem, dealing 180% to surrounding enemies over 10 seconds. To give the Necromancer a rating system overall, I would say their solo potential is a 10 out of 10, with summons being able to be in the front line or to change them to be in the back line while you spec yourself out to be the melee in the front. I believe this gives you great potential to solo most content. Now, overall, with the defensiveness, I would say defensive and solo potential is kind of hand in hand, but defensive, I give them a 9 out of 10. With, once again, having your summons be in the front row, or having bone armor on yourself, or putting a bone wall up to put space in between you and your enemy. I believe that the Necromancer is very defensive, and they're able to kind of outlast a lot of situations because of this. Now, group compatibility, I'd give them a 6 out of 10. Overall, I think they're going to be around average. They have the added bonus of having their summons be there, and it kind of adds to the group. And if you have a certain group member like a Druid or a Barbarian, they're going to be able to buff your summons as well. But at the same time, you're not really bringing much to that table. You're waiting for other people to bring more to the table so that you bring more to the table, if that makes any sense. Build variety, I'd give them an 8 out of 10. You could go caster, you could go melee, you could go summons, you could go melee with summons, you could go caster with summons. Overall, I think the Necromancer has a lot of build variety, and I can't wait to see what people think of. PvP potential, I would say the Necromancer is going to be about average as well for that. Like I said, with defensiveness, they're able to kind of make a gap. They don't really have a lot to close the gap, so because the lack of closing the gap, you're going to be probably kited or outmaneuvered in certain situations. I can't see the Necromancer really excelling in PvP. Not saying they won't be good at PvP, but excelling is where it comes to when it comes to going against other people who are human and not an AI. Difficulty overall, I think the Necromancer is going to be easy. I give them a 2 out of 10. Overall, Necromancer is just going to be your best thing to kind of go into along with the Barbarian. As far as if you're the first timer, I think you're going to have a lot of leeway in learning, but at the same time, if you were to master this class, I believe that you would be able to shine on this class as well. Just because it's a beginner type class does not mean it doesn't have the ability to shine and excel in other areas where other classes are. Alright, now let's talk about the Sorcerer. The Sorcerer is going to be primary caster. I could maybe see a Battle Mage coming out of this, but it's still not going to be melee. The damage types are going to be cold, lightning, and fire. They're going to have high CC. This is going to both going to be in slows or stuns. The slows you're going to see a freeze. Stuns you're probably going to see out of the fire, and then maybe even some stuttering from lightning. They're going to have very high mobility with teleport, as this is a beloved skill that people love to see in sorcerers, but I can't really see this ability being where you're able to cast it non-stop to be able to zip around the map. I can see the mobility being that after you teleport, you gain run speed, but overall, I can't see you being able to teleport non-stop to be able to get everywhere you want to go. Now, their unique mechanic is going to be passives for unused abilities. This is going to be like every time you deal damage with a fire ability, every 5 times you can have a meteor come down on that target. Now, this is going to be using the meteor as your unused ability on another fire skill, giving it a passive of dropping the meteor on them with the fire skill. This is going to be bring a lot of build variety, so you could already see where my rating is probably going to be with build variety on that. But overall, it's a very, very cool, unique mechanic that a sorcerer is going to have, and we're going to see a lot of unique builds out there because of this. Now, going into the ultimates, we're going to have the first ultimate, which is going to be Deep Freeze. Encase yourself in ice, becoming immune for 4 seconds, continuing to chill enemies for 20%. When Deep Freeze ends, frozen enemies shatter for 200% damage. Casting Deep Freeze again ends the effect early. Inferno, which is a fire ability, ignite a roaring inferno that pulses in and out of the target area, burning enemies for 295% damage over 8 seconds, and then explodes, dealing 50% damage to enemies on the outer edge. Unstable Currents. This is your next ultimate, is lightning surges within you for 10 seconds whenever you cast lightning skill another random non-basic lightning skill is also casted. Overall ratings, I would give them their solo potential a 7 out of 10. Now, with them being mobile and able to CC a lot of targets, I could see them being able to solo most content if played correctly. For defensiveness, I'd give them an average 6 out of 10. This being that they have a lot of armors with encasing themselves with ice or fire, or the ultimate ability Deep Freeze. They have a lot of potential to mitigate damage and or CC people around them if they get damaged from them, or with teleport getting away. Now, group compatibility, I see them having a lot of AoE damage, so with groups, I can see them really being effective if you have someone in the front line or someone that's able to put something in the front line to protect everything in the background. I can see the Sorcerer really dishing out the damage to get through content with a group. Build variety, I'd give them overall 9 out of 10. As I talked about before, with a unique mechanic, you're able to really mix up your skills, doing stuff that you don't normally do, with Fireball mixing in a Meteor, or a Blizzard mixing in Frozen Orb or something like that, or Frozen Orb mixing in Blizzard. Overall, you're going to see a lot of different builds and a lot of different potential for things that could occur because of this. PvP potential, with the high burst, I could see them bursting down single targets with PvP and zipping away with teleport. Like I said, teleport's not going to be where they're going to do it constantly to get away, but I could see teleport being where you teleport and gain increased movement speed. So now they're away, and they made a gap while they're able to CC you from a distance and damage you down. Difficulty overall, I'd say the Sorcerer is going to be a glass cannon. If you don't manage your abilities with defensiveness and mobility abilities, I could see them getting hit right away by Barbarian or mob that is able to close the gap or appear on top of you. I could see them just getting that one hit and then they're done. Alright, guys, now it's time to talk about the Rogue. They're going to be a hybrid class. They're going to be melee / range. Their damage types are going to be physical, poison, chill, or shadow. Now, these damage types are going to come mostly from your imbuements, although you will see some of them in your abilities as well. They're going to have high damage and high mobility. Their mobility skills are going to have low cooldown, making so they have really high mobility. Their unique mechanic is going to be one of 3 specializations you choose, and you can swap between these freely, opening up a lot of build variety and customization options. The 3 options of your 3 guilds are going to be combo points. Your basic skills now generate combo points. Certain skills consume combo points for an additional effects. Now the next one is going to be Inner Sight. Attack marked enemies to fill up your Inner Sight gauge. When it's full, gain unlimited energy for 4 seconds. Then the next one is going to be Preparation. It unlocks at level 30. It hasn't really been previewed as to what it is, but I have a feeling it's going to be lowering your cooldown of your ultimate. Ultimates for the Rogue are going to be Death Trap. Place a trap that arms after 1.25 seconds. It activates when an enemy moves within range, dealing 316% damage to the enemies in that area. Next ultimate is going to be Shadow Clone. Your shadow mimics your actions for 15 seconds. The shadow deals 60% of your damage. The next ultimate is going to be Rain of Arrows. Arrows rain down over a large area 2 times, each wave dealing 126% damage.
Another pause, you guys. Thank you guys so much for getting this far in the video. Once again, if you want to leave a comment down below saying what class you want to play, that'd be amazing. Also, why haven't you liked and subscribed yet?
Okay, to go off the rating system, I say solo potential, I give them a 4 out of 10. I can see them being a big glass cannon, but they don't really have a lot of things to block damage or mitigate damage, so they're going to be mostly wanting to just run away from things or put things in between them and their enemies, but at the same time, depending on the enemy type, the enemy probably will be able to close the distance fairly easily, so I can see them running out of distance to get away from their enemies, making this solo kind of hard to do, especially when you got bosses who are probably going to have big gap closers overall. Defensive, like I said, solo potential and defensiveness goes hand in hand. So if defense is going to be a 4 out of 10 as well, the biggest defense is just kiting things, but at the same time, as soon as something's close to them, they're probably going to get damaged down pretty quickly. Group compatibility, I give them a 4 out of 10. Again, this is going to be your class that you're kind of just going to be there to do the damage, but you're really not adding anything to your group overall. You do have AoE abilities, but at the same time, most of your abilities are going to be solo, meaning that you're going to only be able to attack one thing and deal a lot of damage to one thing at a time. Not saying you don't have AoE, but at the same time, those AoE abilities are not going to be as huge as other classes are going to give to their AoE abilities. Build variety, I think you're going to see a lot of build variety with the rogue. You're going to see melees, you're going to see traps, you're going to see range, you're going to see a mixture of the two. I think you're going to see a lot of build variety, and it's really exciting to see what the rogue is going to bring out as well, as far as people's theory crafting, and I can't wait to see. Now, PvP potential. Now, I know with these rating systems, I kind of trashed on them so far, but I would say PvP overall, the rogue is going to be a 10 out of 10. Like I said, your damage is going to be single target. So in PvP, most likely you're not going to see many groups going into PvP. Not saying you're not going to see that, but I'm saying most likely you're not going to see that. So with that, their PvP potential is huge. They're going to be able to make distance and deal a lot of damage and also lay traps. PvP right now that we know of is the hatred, the fields of hatred. So because of that, you have to extract your resources. So if the rogues can lay down traps, getting prepared for what it can come to get them while they're trying to extract their resources, this gives the rogues PvP potential in this specific zone very high capabilities, and it's going to be exciting to see what they can do in PvP. Difficulty overall, I'm going to give them a 10 out of 10. Like I said, kiting is going to be your friend, but kiting is kind of hard to do overall if you don't know how to cast your abilities in a cooldown manner where you're able to keep track of everything, and as soon as something has closed the gap out in you, whether it's a person or enemy or a boss, they're just going to be able to damage you fairly quickly. You are a glass cannon. So overall, I could see this being difficulty for a new player, kind of not really getting into it right away, and it's just going to be frustrating off the bat. Alright guys, so now we're going to talk about the Druid. The Druid is going to be a hybrid class between a caster and melee. His damage types are going to be poison, physical, cold, and lightning. He has strong AoE damage whether he's a caster, and strong single target damage whether he is a werewolf or werebear. He is also going to be one of the other classes with Fortify, as with the werebear he can gain Fortify. Once again, Fortify is a damage pool of life that you have. Within that pool, damage is mitigated to a certain point. As soon as that damage pool is gone, you then have your normal life, which doesn't mitigate damage at all. The Druid is going to be average in the mobility, relying on his werebear or werewolf forms. The werebear will have the charge, the werewolf will have increased movement speed. The Druid has a unique mechanic in which he has the deer, eagle, wolf, or snake. Those animals will each have 4 abilities within them that are passives. You could choose 1 ability for each animal. Later on, you could specialize in a specific animal, allowing you to choose 2. Now overall, for a rating system, I give the Druid a solo potential of an 8 out of 10. This being that you would have your summons and fortify to allow you to be tanky, and summons if you want them to be in the front line while you cast in the background. Once again, defensiveness and solo potential go together. Defensiveness is going to be a 7, as Fortify is a great mechanic for defensiveness. The werebear themselves has a lot of CC, and summons also allow you to put things in the front line in front of you. Grouped combat is going to be a 9 out of 10, as the werewolf does have a lot of things that allow, like shouts and screams and blood howl and stuff like that. These things increase your group damage and your pet's damage as well, or mitigate damage for them overall. Build variety is going to be a 9 out of 10, although in the closed beta, I did see that a lot of people said there was only 3 builds. I hope this changes, as I would love to see them have higher capabilities. PvP potential is going to be a 6 out of 10, as their mobility is not going to be very high. The mobility is going to be between a charge with the werebear or increased movement speed with the werewolf. This does not really allow you to close any gaps, although if you're a caster, you really don't need to close gaps. But still, with PvP, you need to think of all ends of the spectrum. And with that, if you want to be a werebear or werewolf, you're really not going to be able to close that gap. But with defensiveness of the werebear and the possibility to be able to maybe jump on them with your werewolf ultimate, other than that, I give the Druid an overall 6. Difficulty overall is going to be a 7 out of 10, as you do have the capabilities of being defensive, and you have the capabilities of your summons, and you also have potential CC abilities with the elementals. Fortify is also a big thing with werebear, so difficulty overall is going to be a 7 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching this video. Hopefully this helps you decide what class you would want to be. Sometimes the class variety is between what damage types you do. Sometimes it's between whether or not you were melee, caster, or range. Sometimes you just want to be a wolf. Sometimes you want to be a guy that's just as obsessed with the undead. Sometimes you want to be able to cast fire, lightning, and cold. But overall, I hope this thing helps you guys out. If you guys like these kind of videos, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what class you think you will be and why. I would love to hear it, and it might give me some ideas as to future videos to give out for those classes.